Oh my gosh, Jenna, oh my gosh, apparently you're the star of the show today. And
Awesome.
here we go. And we're live. Welcome to yet another edition of our PCS Impact Q&A. I'm your host, MJ Boyce. I am the Director of Community Outreach here at PCS Grades. Boom, boom, boom. Today we have Jenna Wazorek, who is our Director of Communications here at PCS Grades. She's joining me to co-host because she kind of has some, personal ties to our special guest and their organization, Wreaths Across America. It's going to be a great show today, and I can't wait for us to introduce Joe, who will be representing Wreaths Across America today. But before we dive into that and before we get to know our two peeps today, we're going to go ahead and dive into those housekeeping items as we do every week. Ready, set, here we go. All right, everybody, we've got the answers. And if we don't know those answers, guess what? We know who does. And if we don't know either of those things, we're going to take your questions for action and get back to you with an answer. Speaking of questions, comments, concerns, shout outs, go ahead and leave those in the comment section below, and you will be entered to win a para-wreath. We will be donating on your behalf a wreath for placement for Wreaths Across America, and one will be sent to the address of your choice. So that's two, because it's a pair, because two. So yes, comments, questions, concerns, shout outs. LOL smiley faces are great, but unfortunately don't count as an entry to win, people. All right. Next up, we bring the experts to you. Experts like U.S. Transportation Command, who, by the way, has already committed to doing another webinar with us next month. Oh, yes. We've got experts like military spouse employment advocates, like military education experts, like industry moving professionals. We bring them to you because they're the source. But sometimes you're going to have a specific situation that is specific to you and your military family. And in those instances, your two forever and always resources will be, number one, your local chain of command. Number two, your local transportation office. Those are the people who know you. Those are the people who are dealing with your stuff. Those are the people who could take your issues and actually further them for action. Of course, you've always got PCS Grades at the helm. Boom. We've got area guides on our site to research your move. And if you want to review your housing, whether that's on or off base, if you want to review your movers, if you want to receive and give feedback from other military families like you, go ahead and go to pcsgrades.com and do that. Because in the month of November, from the 1st to the 30th, for every review you leave on pcsgrades.com, and we will drop that link into here, $5 will be allocated to the military or veteran nonprofit of your choice on your behalf. Yep, that's right. You're going to take 5 minutes and we're going to give $5. The more reviews you leave, the more money that your chosen military or veteran nonprofit will receive. Hint, hint, we've got a nonprofit on with us today, so keep that in mind. Last but certainly not least, and I say this every week, we modify it every week. We got to keep doing our part, people. We've got to keep doing our part. We've got to keep that curve flattened. We've got to flatten that curve, whether that's wearing your mask or social distancing and paying attention to the restrictions and mandates in the area in which you live. We've got to be vigilant, because when we flatten that curve, we flatten Murphy with it. You hear us, Murphy? We are coming for you. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jenna to introduce herself briefly so that she can introduce our special guest.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Wazorek. I'm an Army spouse and the Director of Communications for PCS Grades. And today we are chatting with Joe from Wreaths Across America. We're super excited about it. I know that my family personally always likes to help out with this nonprofit. And each duty station we go to, we help do the wreath laying ceremony. So I'm super excited to be here. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Joe.
Well, thank you both for having me here. It's amazing. It's amazing to see all you guys do. I mean, there are so many questions that are involved with PCS. As you mentioned, I'm an Army veteran myself. I've done my fair share of ditty moves, partial ditties, full service, you name it. Have been there with you, and I know the complications that exist through it. So, certainly appreciate the folks that are doing it. As a director of military and veteran outreach at Wreaths Across America, my primary role is to engage with organizations across the country, like PCS Grades, that are helping our military families do what they need to be doing to help our veterans in our communities do what they need to be doing to help thrive. So people think of us, they say, well, you're the ones that are laying wreaths on headstones each and every year, which is true. It's probably the most vocal thing or visible thing that we do each and every year. But we're doing a lot more of that. We're engaging with communities across the country. And this year we're looking at over 2,700 participating cemeteries across the country. So we're really excited to be here. We're really excited to be part of PCS Grades and get this information out there because, again, this is one of those challenging times. So thank you both so much for having me.
You're on mute, girl. You on mute.
Okay, can I just go ahead and put this out there for all of you? It would not be a Wednesday if MJ wasn't on mute. 2 seconds. Murphy, back off, bro. All right, I'm going to hand it over to, we are just super excited to have you, Joe, and we love Wreaths Across America. There is not one military spouse, service member, and in many cases, kiddos, who doesn't know about Wreaths Across America. But we're here to dive a little bit deeper today, so I'm going to let Jenna here kick it off.
Awesome. Yeah. So a lot of us do know the name Wreaths Across America and what you're most notable for, but tell us more about what the mission is and kind of like the why behind you guys.
Absolutely. Well, and let me address the why first, because I think each and every one of us has our own why. For those of us that have served, or we have a loved one that's serving, that why is usually pretty straightforward. We've served alongside, we continue to serve alongside some amazing men and women in uniform. And participating in Wreaths Across America is that opportunity for us to engage and honor them. The mission of Wreaths Across America is to remember the fallen, honor our living veterans, and to teach the next generation of Americans the value of that freedom that our military families are the ones that are providing. And like I said, I can't say it enough that we know that it is when a service member is serving, really that whole family is truly serving, and we mean that, and that's part of what we do. So when you think of that remembrance, National Wreaths Across America Day, that third Saturday every December. This year will be December the 18th, and as I mentioned kind of in the intro, over 2,700 cemeteries will be participating this year, which is really exciting for us. It's a program that continues to grow, and it grows because of the volunteers that are out there that are so passionate about this. We see a lot of military families, a lot of military spouses, Gold Star families who really take it on themselves to take a hold of these cemeteries and to move forward that mission. Our Teach mission is something that a lot of people don't necessarily think about sometimes. Through our radio station, Wreaths Across America Radio, which is available on iHeart nationwide, we help try and highlight some of the issues that are impacting military and veteran families. Over the course of the past year, we've hosted a series of roundtable discussions to highlight some of the unique challenges that are facing veterans and military families in communities across the country as well. So to bring that voice out and to teach folks about what it's like to have that experience. It's interesting as someone that has come out of the military to be part of this and to realize that there are so many folks, oftentimes our neighbors. So I live in Colorado Springs, just out of Fort Carson, really big military town. But you still encounter folks that don't have that personal connection with someone that has served in the military. And so oftentimes, those important folks in our lives, the movers, the bankers, the grocery stores might not necessarily understand some of the issues that are impacting, their neighbors in these military communities. So to be part of that, and what I love about Wreaths Across America Day is it's an opportunity to come together as a community and share those stories, to share those experiences so that folks understand exactly what you're going through in your day-to-day life as you serve this great country.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's fantastic. And again, so I just literally posted this. I'm going to put it back up there. Shout out to Team Carson, our spouse sponsors. We have 2 spouse sponsors, Marissa and Crystal, out in Fort Carson, and they help with relocation-based issues for PCS Grades. Right there, boots on the ground, Team Carson for the win.
Very well, and I would say too, if we can obviously post my contact information, which is jregan@wreathsacrossamerica.org. I'm always here to help. It's my very job is to help and support all of you in what you're doing. Especially those communities. We have spouse groups that participate in part of Wreaths Across America that will go out there, and some of them are just there for the activity, and some of them use this as a fundraising opportunity to support the things that they're doing on base. And to support those military families. So it's a wonderful opportunity. I'm always happy to talk about those things. because like I said, it's not just about laying a wreath. There's so much more to it. And when you look at some of our partner organizations, we have groups that do what we call the 2 for 3 program. So for every 2 wreath sponsorships that a group gets, Wreaths Across America will donate a 3rd wreath to their cause. It helps them get greater coverage in those cemeteries. There are other organizations out there, Civil Air Patrol, the Scouts, you name it, they're all out there that are $5 back groups, where they'll actually, for every wreath sponsorship that they get, every $15 wreath sponsorship, $5 of that comes back to the organization to help them with their mission.
Mm-hmm.
And through that program, we've given over $15 million back to other charities in communities across the country to support their missions. And that's things that when people hear that, they're like, what? So it's cool to have those opportunities, and we want to grow that, because this is a great thing that you can be doing to support stuff that are happening for military families in their country, in their communities.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. I'm just going to go ahead and say, careful what you wish for, my friend, because our spouse sponsors and everyone we work with, including us, we are very moto. Speaking of moto, I just have to go ahead and put this out there. When I say moto, I used to think it was just a Marine spouse thing, but I'm going to go ahead and pull that card for a second. Everyone, let's go ahead, and everyone who's watching and everyone who's catching us on the replay, go to town on that love button, because today is the Marine Corps' birthday. 246 years young. Hoorah, yut, semper fi, all day.
Yeah.
All the love goes to the Marines today. All the love.
All the love. All the love. We're the only service that was born in a bar. My kind of. Okay, so we have a lot of people in our networks. I mean, even Mary. Shout out Mary, spouse sponsor from Jacksonville, Florida. She's super excited to try and do this with her kids. We've got a lot of people who are huge supporters and already know about Wreaths Across America. I'm a history buff, kind of, sort of. I want to know where things came from. So how was Wreaths Across America actually born?
Yeah. So Maura Worcester, who's our founder, he runs a company called the Worcester Wreath Company, which is they make wreaths up in northern Maine. And when he was 12 years old, he won a competition that got him a trip to Washington, D.C. And one thing that stuck with him was when he took a trip to Arlington National Cemetery. And when I say stuck with him, I mean, from the time that he was a 12-year-old boy to the time that he became, a very successful businessman in Maine, he was always grateful for the sacrifices that were made that enabled him to be the success that he had. And he counted himself as being tremendously fortunate. And so one particular year, and this will actually be the 30th year of wreath laying at Arlington National Cemetery. But one year, he found himself with about 5,000 extra wreaths that had not been sold that year, and they were trying to figure out what to do with it. And he said, you know what, let's box them up, let's go down to Arlington National Cemetery, and let's lay these wreaths on the great headstones of veterans that are interred there. And it took a little bit of coordination, but they were able to do it. They drove down, and the cemetery pushed them into kind of one of the older areas where a lot of Civil War veterans were buried, who didn't have any living relatives around to honor them anymore. And so they went from grave to grave, and they laid these wreaths. And every time they put a wreath down, they would say the name of the individual on the headstone. And I've heard this from a couple of different sources, but they say that, all of us die twice. There's the time that you speak your last breath, and then there's the last time that someone says your name. And so after the first year that they did this, I mean, Morrill really couldn't stop talking about it and kept going on and on about how impactful this was for him. And so they went back year after year after year. And for the longest time, it was really just a small family thing that they would do until, I want to say it was 2005. Don't quote me on the exact year here, but about 2005, it snowed in DC. And so all the wreaths had been laid over the fresh snowfall. And it really created this viral image that went out there of all these headstones that were, had been honored with a wreath. And people got really interested in it. They wanted to learn how to do more. And so in 2007, we actually formed an independent nonprofit 501c3 with Wreaths Across America and tried to expand that program. And so since 2007, like I said, we've gone from 5,000 wreaths at Arlington National Cemetery to now last year we laid over 2.1 million wreaths at 2,500 cemeteries across the country. And to see the passion that our volunteers bring to that is really quite incredible. And like I said, a lot of the folks that are taking this on, these are Gold Star mothers, these are Blue Star mothers, these are Blue Star spouses, military spouses. These are veterans groups that will take on this mission to honor each and every year. So that's that's kind of the long story. And so we're really excited this year because it's a significant milestone for all of us to realize that this started with just a humble wreath maker that said, you know what, I'm going to take these extra wreaths, I'm going to do something special with it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Can anybody else tell? I mean, I can't. Like, I try to keep my camera face on, but when it hits you in the feels, right? It hits you in the feels, and you're like, keep it together, keep it together. You're on camera. Yeah. No, that hit me right in the feels, and apparently Jenna as well.
My very first one, and you almost made me cry. Keep it together.
My wife actually won't even attend events that I speak at anymore because I'm pretty much, every time I start going off on some of these things, I pretty much make her cry. But it's funny, my background has been, I'm an infantryman, and I always kind of looked at myself and said, oh, I'm a tough guy. And I was stationed in Washington, D.C. That was my last active duty assignment, was out of Fort Belvoir. And so I used to go up to Arlington all the time, and it wasn't really an emotional thing for me. At least I don't remember it being that emotional. And the first time I went down, I was asked to speak at a Wreath Day event at Arlington. And I went, I had my two boys with me and my wife, Tiffany, who's also an Army veteran herself. And we went in and we laid the wreath, and even I broke down, and I was like, what is happening? And the only way I can describe it to folks that haven't experienced this is when you actually go for it, when you actually lay that wreath. And the way I've described it is oftentimes the pictures tell that macro story, that big story, all those headstones. But when you participate in a Wreath Day event, it's a very micro story. It's not about all of those graves. It's about that person. And when you say that name out loud, it really creates, whether it's someone that you know, and I've got several folks at Arlington that I know that I served alongside, or if it's someone that you've never met before, just that act makes that connection. And you really do have to experience it to get that feel. But it does, it puts the chills down the spine. And even my kids who are 6 and 9 years old, they still talk about it to this day, that first experience. And so I'm really glad that it's kind of becoming a family tradition of ours.
Yeah, that's amazing. And before we all start crying again, you kind of touched on it a little bit with iHeartRadio and helping other nonprofits give back, which I know our spouse club here at Fort Stewart takes advantage of with the $5 back wreath laying campaign. So thank you guys for that. We were, you guys were actually at our luncheon yesterday, and so we highlighted it's Wreaths for Warriors Walk here, and we lay them on Warriors Walk. But kind of tell us a little bit about what other initiatives you guys have going on.
Right. So especially with our teacher mission, we have, in addition to the radio station, we actually have a mobile education exhibit. So at our headquarters in Columbia Falls, Maine, we have a museum that kind of highlights the stories of these veterans. And one of the things that's important to us is, a lot of people write books about, generals and admirals and stuff like that. But, all of us that serve know that really the lifeblood here are those, those soldiers, those sailors, those Marines that are out there that are doing these missions. And what I love about the museum that we have is it really shares those stories from the folks that serve, because every one of us that has served, every family that served, they all have this unique story. And so to capture that into the museum in Columbia Falls is really cool. Now, if you know anything about the geography of the great state of Maine, Columbia Falls is not the end of the world, despite popular belief, but you can see it from there. So it is a bit difficult if you want to make it up to our headquarters. So we have a mobile education trailer that now goes across the country. And if you go to our website at wreathsacrossamerica.org, we have that schedule as to where it's going to be across the country at different times of the year, so that folks can experience it this way. And oftentimes it's hosted by elementary schools that want to participate. It's hosted by VFW groups that want to talk about this. The Daughters of the American Revolution are one of our most engaged groups. And they're a group that is committed to helping share the history of our country. And so it's an opportunity for us to share that story. We're also a commemorative partner of the 50th commemoration of the Vietnam War. This is a congressionally authorized, sponsored group that provides Vietnam veterans with an appropriate welcome home. And I know all of us that have served during the post 9/11 era, I know we all know this, right? We have had the gratitude of our country since the moment that we stepped off in 2001, and we continue to have that gratitude. And I think that when I left active duty and got involved with the nonprofit world, it was quickly evident that the reason that the services exist today that we have are out there, the reason that our service members, our veterans, get the services that they need, and there's always room for improvement. But a large part of that is because of the Vietnam veterans who didn't get an appropriate welcome home, who stood up after 9/11 and said, you know what, we're not going to let this happen to this next generation of veterans, the same thing that happened to us. And so to be a commemorative partner and be able to have these impromptu welcome home ceremonies, and it's kind of weird when you experience this. And I've had an opportunity to welcome home a couple of Vietnam veterans. And these are men that are now in their 70s or 80s, and they look rough and tough, and they come up and they're, they got their t-shirts on and this, and, you sit there and you say, listen, nobody ever thanked you for your service. And that's a shame. And I want to personally, and not just on my behalf, but on behalf of everybody in America, thank you for what you've done. And just to see the relief on their face. And so many of them, you see these grown men just break down crying, and they'll say, no one ever said that to me. And to be able to have that opportunity to share that with them is huge.
Yeah.
And we're always looking for other things. Like we said, even if it's just financially getting involved in helping support some of these missions that happen, across the country. And, that alone is something that is rewarding for me personally. We work with a lot of really large nationwide nonprofits like your VFWs and your Legions. But there are a lot of local organizations that are out there that are, really fighting tooth and nail to get their funding that they need to provide these valuable services. And, I see us as being a tool that can help do that, because that's what it is, right? And our executive director, Karen Worcester, when she hired me, she said, listen, our mission to honor the fallen is worth nothing if we don't also support the men and women that continue, the veterans that are still in our communities, and those men and women that are still serving. And that's what this is all about, is, that's, you can't do one without the other. And I think that's something that's really cool.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and I really love that you mentioned, especially, and I mean, it hits me in the feels too, when we do any work, whether it's individually in our own time or collectively as a team here at PCS Grades, like whenever we hear from Vietnam veterans specifically, you're absolutely right. The reaction that they receive, that they have to being thanked, it's because this isn't like, our military wasn't looked at and our veterans were not looked at the way that they are looked at today. When they came home from Vietnam, it was a different time and people had a different mindset. And so to hear that, even after the fact, even for somebody who may not have been alive at that point in time, that's even more special.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, and I think that's fun. And it's that sense of community around the wreath, and because that's what it's all about. And when people, with COVID, there was all those challenges there. But at the end of the day, our goal is always to create these inclusive, like fully inclusive events that allow everyone that wants to participate to participate. Because it's when you make those connections, right? I can talk about what Wreaths Across America is doing at the national level, and we do a lot. But what really matters is what's happening at those individual cemeteries. And whether it's a large cemetery like Fort Logan up north in Denver, at Arlington, where you have hundreds of thousands of veterans laying to rest there, or if it's these small little cemeteries that somebody stumbled across that had 4 veterans buried there, and they've adopted that cemetery to go make sure that those 4 veterans in that small family plot in the middle of nowhere are honored. Those are the stories that matter, because that's the sense of community that we all learned in the military. And when we can expand that out into our, the non-military communities that surround us, that's where you start to see the impact on what it really means when we are united as a country, what we can accomplish together as a community.
And you know what? I'm glad you brought up that sense of community, because, oftentimes with the military family takes care of each other. And just when you take off that uniform, it literally is no different. Okay. Like, my husband can retire all he wants. I'm not going anywhere. I am here to stay. Get over it. Like, that's how that's going down. And that's the way it is. You always have that tie. Okay. And whether, PCS Grades is built on the fact that military and veteran families take care of one another. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, whether the military is either unable or unwilling to help with resources or assist in endeavors, the one line item, there's no NDAA budget line item for military families. We will never be cut from it. We are each other's resource. We take care of one another, right? And so actually building upon that, like we give, just like Wreaths Across America, like we give back on the regular, like whether that's leaving reviews for future military families to see, like I think I mentioned before that my daughter decided to join the Mill Spouse Club, right? And so she's going to be executing her first PCS. Now she's not going to listen to her mother. Like who does? And I'm like the PCS resource, right? But she's going to listen to Jenna. She's going to listen to everybody who's watching right now. And she's going to read your reviews and where you live. If she's heading your way, she's going to read what you have to say about base housing, about what you have to say about the movers or off base housing. And she'll be able to make a more educated decision about what her life is going to look like at her new duty station before she even gets there. But to just go ahead and throw a little fuel on the fire, we have, I mentioned it at the start of our webinar, we have our, Take 5, Give 5 campaign. We're doing a nonprofit give back. And how do you do that? Okay, so here's exactly what goes down. And I think our girl Teresa on the back end, who, by the way, is awesome. She's going to go ahead and drop the link to this, but literally you sign up, you leave a review about your on or off base housing. And you say to us, I want $5 for this review to go to the military or veteran nonprofit of your choice. And we do this the whole month. Last year, I think we gave away well over $1,000 to about 24 nonprofits who can continue their mission. And by the way, 9 times out of 10, their mission is serving us. So we have a campaign for something we call that. We call it Doing Good Twice. Where you're helping out a military, by setting up one of these reviews, you are helping another military family navigate the PCS process, which we all know is difficult. And 2, you're helping a nonprofit, as you mentioned, oftentimes it is supporting other military families as well. So one action does good twice. Oh my gosh. So that's going to be
love that.
Or
where were you when we were brainstorming hashtags?
Next time we're calling you for that. So, in light of this, which by the way, military veteran nonprofits supporting our community, Wreaths Across America is one of those. Just saying. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But yeah, in light of that, how is it, Joe, that campaigns like this, campaigns like the one we're doing right now, between now and Giving Tuesday, because it's giving season, how do initiatives like this help orgs like Wreaths Across America? Absolutely. Well, so, nonprofits are always drawing on the goodwill of folks in the community to do what it is that they are going to do. And I've seen this, you can see this in all sorts of different organizations. At Wreaths Across America, we don't take government grants. We don't apply for a lot of these large-scale grants. Every one of these, so when we think about that, 2.1 million reads laid last year. Each one of those reads was a gift from an American. Each one of those reads was something that was sponsored by an individual. And sure, we have some large donors that are able to sponsor, a large number of reads. We have some large donors that, help us do things like our mobile education trailer, like help us do the radio station to get these messages out there. But each and every one of those reads, at the end of the day, that's a gift from some American somewhere that was moved to say, I want to make sure that a veteran is honored this holiday season. And I'm going to put that $15 there to make sure that it happens. And I think that's an incredible story when you break it down, and it all comes back, it's all about pathways. So one of the things I mentioned, that our headquarters is up in Columbia Falls, Maine. We have, I think, approximately 66,000 acres of pine forest where all these reeds come from. And so through our Remembrance Tree program, whether your veteran is living or deceased, you can have one of those trees tagged with a replica dog tag. So that tree becomes a living memorial to your loved one.
And over the course, we have dedicated portion of those of the Grove to different groups. So we have, in fact, one of the most moving for me this past summer, we dedicated a Grove to those women who have served in the United States military, and it's a fascinating history to look back at the women who have served this country back into the Revolutionary War. It's a wonderful history, and we partnered with the Army Women's Foundation and the Women in Military Service Memorial in Washington, D.C. To bring those together to share those stories. And I'll say this, as a when I pull into a veteran's parking space, no one questions the fact that I'm a veteran. But when my wife pulls into a parking space, people start taking notes. And we have, unfortunately, and people think of a veteran, and almost always that image of a veteran is going to be an older male. And we need to change that, because the demographics of our military are changing for the better, and we need people to recognize the fact that we have men and women that serve from all walks of life, and that our military truly does represent the diversity of the country. And we say that because that's a good news story for all of us. And so to be able to take a moment to have that as part of that Remembrance Tree program, where we're now honoring all these women who have served, it's really quite incredible. But like I said, it's that pathway of, it starts with that one action. It starts with doing good twice. Whether it is signing up to support a sponsorship group. I'm watching our Facebook feed here on the post, and someone says, well, we used to do this at Bragg. As Caitlin said, we used to do this at Bragg, and I can't find anything near me. And that might be true. You can go to Wreaths Across America. You can find participating cemeteries across the country. And I tell people all this time, it's easy to sign up and be a cemetery sponsor. So if you're going down and say, this isn't happening in my community, what can I do about it? Well, be the one that signs up and does it. And we've got some amazing team of folks that can help to support you to make sure that becomes a big thing. And you'll find that when you're the one that steps up and raises their hand and says, all right, I'll start the ball rolling here, very quickly others are going to fall in behind you and support you all the way. So like I said, if you don't see it in your community and you want it to be part of your community, wreathsacrossamerica.org, you can set up a new location. And you can always reach out to me. I'm always happy to work with military families to get that support, to get the ball rolling in their community.
That's amazing. So we touched a lot on veterans right then, which thank you for bringing up the female veteran. That's like a huge heart right there. That was awesome.
So much.
But speaking of Veterans Day, you guys, it's right around the corner, aka tomorrow. So what does Wreaths Across America kind of have going on to highlight their service tomorrow? What's the happenings?
So the biggest thing that we're doing tomorrow is through Wreaths Across America is we'll be throughout the course of the day highlighting the service of various veterans. So I've done a couple of interviews with other veterans to talk about their service. I know through our morning show, we'll have guests throughout the course of the day that will talk about that. Actually, this evening, if anyone is in the Florida Panhandle area, Mobile, Alabama area, we actually have a telethon that will be occurring. I don't have that link in front of me, but I know there's a telethon actually up. So I'll be on, if you're in the Panhandle of the Mobile, Alabama region, I will be on your television this evening, trying to ask you to help support us with that effort as well. And really for Veterans Day, it is about highlighting those stories. So through Facebook, we'll see those types of things happen. For us, our entire team right now is really focused on making sure that we're processing all the responsorships, working with these different groups, working with all of our cemetery location coordinators to get these ceremonies set up. Folks don't know this, but every cemetery gets a series of ceremonial wreaths. And this year, because of the addition of the Space Force as the newest branch of the military, we're going to have a special wreath for the Space Force as well. And
that's awesome.
You actually mentioned the Patriot Pair at the beginning of this, so the folks that are making those comments in the chat. The Patriot Pair it's one of my favorite gifts, which is you can go and you can provide someone with one of these beautiful balsam fir live wreaths for their door that's adorned with not only the American flag but the flag of the service of their choice. And then there you go. Then another one is donated to a cemetery so that it can honor a veteran. It's another example of that doing good twice. which is pretty incredible.
And
That
I'm
is
curious. I'm curious about this trucking tribute Patriot pair. What's that about?
Well, so actually, it's a great example of how Wreaths Across America and PCS Grades got connected, because as we said, we're moving all of these wreaths from northern Maine to cemeteries across the country, and we really can't do that without our trucking partners. And those are local trucking, regional trucking partners, international or national trucking partners, freight movers, you name it. So the logistics behind this is really quite huge, and the engagement we've seen, not just from the trucking executives, but really the truck drivers themselves, the ones that are out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone, sees a Wreaths Across America driver that's part of one of their moves. So it's a way to acknowledge the fact that, hey, this mission, these PCSs, they don't happen without truck drivers. And and I can tell you that working with a lot of the trucking industry executives, a lot of folks choose trucking as their post-service careers, and it's a great opportunity. And a lot of, it's becoming a pretty lucrative business, because in this stay-at-home world, if it's getting to your front door, at some point it was on a truck.
Yeah. I think a lot of them are actually veterans also, which circles back to where we started, that the military family takes care of each other.
Absolutely.
So they're very willing to volunteer to make sure it gets from point A to point B, because they're that family too.
And one of the things that I've been working on, as we get closer, and if you've never lived in the Northeast, this is probably something you haven't seen before, but every year we do a convoy that goes from Columbia Falls, Maine, all the way down to Arlington National Cemetery. It's really one big parade of all these trucks that are escorting these wreaths down the East Coast to get down to Arlington. And again, wreathsacrossamerica.org, you can see the schedule. We'll be going through Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, into New York, down into Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, and of course ending off in Virginia. And you can see the schedule, because we'll do convoy stops in communities across the country, which is actually a lot of fun to see those types of, to see folks come out and honor these. And a lot of Gold Star families will accompany us on this journey to go down and to see that outflowing of patriotism that still exists in these schools. And it's frustrating sometimes. I think you hear people talk about how, kids aren't being raised. We're worried about kids. And I do a lot of work with kids. I've got 2 kids, and I'll tell you, there's some amazing children that are out there, and I am very hopeful that this next generation that we're raising today are going to be absolutely amazing Americans. And if you don't feel that way, well, volunteer in schools and see it yourself, because I think it's really awesome.
Boom.
I love that. And speaking of volunteering and getting involved, inquiring minds want to know to include our girl Destin Jenkins, who, by the way, just executed PCS Oconus. How can us across the pond, i.e., the ocean, help with Wreaths Across America? How can our audience, either CONUS or Oconus, get involved?
So 2 years ago, we actually started an initiative to begin wreath laying at some of our cemeteries abroad. So we actually did a program where we're able to go overseas to Normandy, Luxembourg, and a few other areas, and a few of the other cemeteries in Europe, to actually do a wreath laying there as well. I'm not going to lie, COVID last year and this year have put those on hold. But we do look at really expanding something. One of the other areas that we work on, it's called the HEART program. It's Honoring Allies, Remembering Together. And this is an opportunity to look at, the fact that, really as far back as you look, but, for me personally, looking back just the past 20 years, having worked alongside some amazing Allied military members and those that are over in Germany, you guys are, or anywhere overseas for that matter, you see that contributions that are happening between the different groups. So to honor those kind of group sacrifices as well. You can always become, support a cemetery back at home. You could still do the $5 back program and support what's happening on your post. So you could still see the financial benefit from that. I would say the volunteer opportunities this year at least will be limited, and continue to reach out. I actually had a conversation with one of the spouse group leaders who was at AUSA a few weeks ago, and we were talking about exactly how we can try and expand this.
Wait a minute, just
Mhm.
really quick. You were at AUSA?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know how I missed you. PCS Grace was there. We were in
I
the Family Readiness Pavilion.
so we were over in the Veterans Pavilion.
Next year we know, so next year we'll make a plan to visit.
Absolutely, we could do some. Maybe we could do a webinar live from AUSA.
It's happening, people.
Yep.
Put it
You're
on
hired, Joe. You're hired.
Well, and it was really cool because there was a whole they had a group there for the general officer's spouse mentorship group that we were able to engage with as well, and talk to some of the general officer spouses that are going to be really engaged in what's happening on bases everywhere. So to talk to them about it, but also to talk about with family readiness groups as well. This is something that you can be doing, not just a volunteer, but to answer the question specific to overseas, I would say wreath laying volunteer opportunities are probably going to be non-existent this year. Keep in touch with us. We're hoping to do something next year. But to be seeking those sponsorships is something that you can do, and you can find creative ways. And again, feel free to reach out if you have ideas as to how you might be able to do some sort of a volunteer event that might help benefit a cemetery back at home as well. So, and I'll actually tell you that Arlington is actually one of our most difficult locations to get sponsorships for, because a lot of people think that it's actually the government that pays for those wreaths, and that's not the case. Those are all sponsored wreaths. So like I said, there's a lot of ways that you can still get involved. People think wreath laying, which of course I feel is probably the most rewarding aspect of it, but there are certainly ways that you can still support the mission as you're overseas.
Yeah.
We've got Shemaine. Shout out Shemaine. She is looking to partner to support. Perhaps I hook you guys up by email.
That's usually the best way. That's usually the best way. Sometimes it takes me a little bit longer to respond, but I promise you, respond. And I can also connect you with other folks as well. The website is really easy to navigate. You can go on there and you just pretty much, there's a drop down menu that says, add new sponsorship group or add new location. And you fill out that form and you can get started. One of our regional coordinators will reach out to you and help get some of the details put together. And then, like I said, we've got a toolkit that you can use and really run with it, make it your own. And that's the cool thing when engaging with some of our volunteers at other cemeteries, to see how they've really, made these events their own based on what the community wants to see and how the community wants to honor, military and veteran families in their communities.
Yeah,
that is just fantastic. And just for the audience purview, I know some of you have been involved in the past with wreath laying initiatives, whether that's on the local level or, I do know quite a few people who have gone up to Arlington to lay those wreaths. But if you have a story, we'd love for you to plug it in the comment section for us to pass on to our friends here at Wreaths Across America, just because those, I don't know about y'all, but when I see kind of the fruits of my labor, it tends to motivate me to continue to do what I do. And your story matters. Like, it really, really does. And so I encourage you to go ahead and drop that in the comment section. And we're getting kind of close towards the end where we're going to get those wheel of names. So Teresa, if you wouldn't mind sending me those names. If you all have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions for our friend Joe from Wreaths Across America, go ahead and drop them in the comments section while you still can, to be entered into the wheel of names, because the winner will receive, in their name, a wreath of their branch of choice, as well as one to go to the address of your choice, whether it's yourself or a friend. We'll hook you up. But we're going to go ahead and do that as our grand prize. So the more you engage, obviously, the more likely you will win when we put your name in the wheel of names. But while we're collecting all of that, Joe, what is your saved rounds? What is your advice for military families watching on whether that's getting involved in Wreaths Across America, whether that's getting involved with other veteran organizations, or whether that's giving back? What would be your biggest nugget to drop?
I think that in working with so many military and veteran families across the country, one thing that I've noticed, and it's funny, a lot of people, so I'm one of maybe 3 people from my high school that no longer lives in the town that I went to high school in. And I think that's unique for a couple of different reasons. Because when I look at one of the qualities of military families is we don't look at establishing roots over the course of decades. We're establishing those roots within weeks of being on the ground in some place. And, that ability to hit the ground running wherever you land means you can do a tremendous amount, whatever your passion might be. And I think that's find the thing that you really want to get behind and jump on it, because every community in this country really can benefit from what you have to offer. And I don't say that just because I want to say it. I mean, I really mean it. That for me, I draw a lot of motivation from our Gold Star families. And as as an active duty guy, it was kind of challenging at first to work with Gold Star families. It was intimidating. There was a survivor guilt aspect to it, I think. And the more and more I got to engage with them, the more and more I realized that this is the type of thing that all of us should be doing. I mean, these families have lost a loved one, a son or daughter, a husband or wife, and they go back into their communities and they give so much to improve the quality of life for others around them. And I can't think of a better way to honor the sacrifices of those that we served alongside than to follow the example of those Gold Star families and to get out there and to be the solution. What do military families, what do they do? What are our values? Well, our values are, we don't just complain about things, we fix things. And our communities need that right now. So get out there and whether it be Wreaths Across America, and I'd love for you to be involved with that. If that's not your thing, find that thing, go out and do it. Be the solution.
Again with the mute. Again, Destin, we're 0 for 3 now. We'll try again. Yes. But anyways, no, that's, again, kind of regretting putting on mascara here because,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? You don't have that problem, but trust me, me and Jen are struggling here.
We are going to put #cry at the end of remember, honor, teach. Have a good cry.
Here's my last story, and I'll answer any questions, but here's my last story is, 2.1 million wreaths laid. Not every headstone gets covered every year. Wayne Hansen, who is our chairman of our board of directors, he is one of our location coordinators at Arlington National Cemetery. And over the past couple of years, Arlington has gotten full coverage. However, it wasn't always that way. And so Wayne, at the end of each wreath day, would go through and take some time to go through the entire cemetery and make sure that everything was just right. And one particular year, he's going through and he's on one of those rows that didn't have all the headstones covered. And as he goes down the row, there's a gentleman that's standing there. And so the gentleman looks over at Wayne and says, well, what's with all these wreaths? And, Wayne is a great advocate for our mission. So he just explains to this gentleman all that Wreaths Across America is. And the gentleman just stands there and nods, and he looks down and he looks and says, well, how come my son didn't get one? And, Wayne tells that story pretty much every time, and I don't think you can say it without breaking a tear. And I share it with people because it really does show the impact that this has on those families, on those loved ones of those individuals. And it really shows what this means. This is not just, laying wreaths on graves. This is, a really meaningful thing to do, for all of us, right? These are men and women that we served alongside, and I know we want to see that same thing. So.
You guys will excuse me if I go cry under my melt blanket now. No, it's so touching because it's so true. Nice, I know we have matching blankets. I liked you already. No, but it's so true to think about that, because we've run across that when we're in certain cemeteries laying it, only certain sections are getting sponsored. And it is heartbreaking to see that. And you just want to, you want to do more. You want to go fix the problem like you were talking about. So hopefully some listeners are motivated now. We're going to get some donations into you guys, get some limited volunteers, and go try to help fix that problem.
Absolutely.
I'm never at a loss for words. Like, Trust me, brevity is not my friend. I have a lot of words, and right now I really don't have any. So congratulations, you just accomplished the impossible. Wow.
MJ's
So on
going to
that,
sponsor a wreath and then get off this and go celebrate the Marine Corps birthday.
Exactly.
And it's going to be great.
I absolutely am. And just for the record, Teresa on our back end, shout out Teresa. She went ahead for every review that you leave. We're going to donate $10 to Wreaths Across America for every single review that you leave under Wreaths Across America. Do you know how those graves of those people will not be empty, or will be less likely to be empty if you do this? And you're not only helping that cause, you're helping military families prepare for what's to come next. So there's that. In addition, we're giving away, and I think Teresa already put it in there, but I'm just going to put it in there again for good measure. We're giving away that pair of wreath, and I'm going to share my screen so that we can do the wheel of names. But remember, that link is the same link that we're going to be using to be giving this away. You can use this too. And what a fantastic gift to give to someone to pay it forward. So here we go. We're sharing our screen. Please, Murphy, do not mess with me today.
While you're messing with it, I am trying to get this Patriot pair offered in the exchanges on base. That's one of my goals for next year as well. So hopefully you can see this in your exchange next year as well.
That would be so absolutely amazing. And I would be all over that. In fact, everybody would be getting a wreath. I would be the Oprah of wreaths. That's what people would be doing. So whoever our winner is, you're going to get with us and you're going to let us know which branch of service and or wreath from here that you would like, and the address to the person you would like to send it to. So here is our wheel of names, and we're going to one day come up with a drum roll that is audible to everybody. But for now, look at this beautiful wheel with all of these names. We're going to click this button.
Yay!
Charmaine Perry Knight.
Awesome.
How about that? How about that? Congratulations, Charmaine. We do have your information, I do believe, because Charmaine was actually a previous webinar guest. She's a military brat. She's written a few books for our military kiddos. Yeah. Both for those whose father served or whose mother served.
Yeah, so, extra shout out to her though, because she also has a coloring book in addition to a book, and we actually just bought some to go in a basket for Fort Bragg. They're going to be bidding on a PCS basket with Charmaine's book in there too.
I was going to say, so I can't make promises because we haven't met yet, but if you notice when you brought up that Patriot pair, you saw the book 30,000 Stitches. Yes. That was also that is a book that is written about the flag that was flown over the Twin Towers after 9/11. And the author did a wonderful job of kind of writing this story in a way that is appropriate for younger children. So we're, again, through that website, we're also looking for, we're always looking for opportunities to bring in that content that is friendly for children that can help share some of these really difficult topics. So again, if you got something like that, please reach out, because I'm always interested to learn more about those things and help promote what you're working on.
Yeah,
that is absolutely fantastic. And Destin, just a shout out, Destin. The info on where you can buy is actually found. You will find it not once, but twice here in the comment section. Yes, please do that. And again, go ahead when you have a second, drop your Wreaths Across America story in the comment section so we can pass it over to our friends over there at Wreaths Across America. Joe, thank you so much for being on with us today. We really, really appreciate it. You're super engaging, and literally you broke the rock, apparently, that is MJ. Yeah, so like breaking character is very difficult, and you succeeded in that. So I'm gonna have to work a little bit, but I appreciate it because we all need a little dose of perspective in our lives.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'm so happy to be partnered with you guys, and thank you guys for what you do. PCS moves are no fun, so thank you for making it just a little bit easier for our military families.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what we roll. That's our passion. That's our promise. Yes. So next week, please join us next week. We'll be here Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're actually going to have Sandbox. Standby. We're going to have Sandbox on as a guest next week. Super excited to see you then. But until then, folks, this too shall PCS. Bye, everybody.
Bye.